Good morning, buenos días, and thank you for joining us today. First, let's go over a few housekeeping items. Primero, algunas cosas que deben saber. For those who speak Spanish, we have interpreters available. At the bottom of your screen, click on the last icon labeled More. Then you'll see a globe icon labeled Interpretation. Please click on that icon and select Spanish to hear the Spanish interpretation. Para aquellos que hablan español, tenemos intérpretes disponibles. En la parte inferior de su pantalla, haga clic en el último icono donde dice More y luego hay un globo que dice Interpretation o interpretación. Haga clic en ese icono y seleccione Spanish para escuchar la interpretación en español. We'll give folks a moment to select their preferred language channel. I'm Sofia Lenny, the Communication Specialist for the American Rescue Plan Act in the Commissioner's Office. We're glad to have everyone here to learn more about the upcoming Survive and Thrive program, o Progresando Juntos, en español, for nonprofit organizations providing safety net services and childcare providers, including family, friend, and neighbor providers. Just a reminder for our Spanish recording panelists, please ensure you are in the Spanish channel to record the Spanish version. And a special request for our panelists, please speak slowly and clearly for our interpreters. Thank you for your cooperation. This meeting is being recorded and the recording will be available on the Survive and Thrive website. The chat option is disabled, but we'll be answering your questions at the end of the presentation. Please submit your questions using the Q&A feature in Zoom, which you can find at the bottom of your screen. We'll do our best to address as many questions as possible. If we are unable to answer your questions today, you can contact the program manager, Emily Darrell, and we will be sharing her contact information along this presentation. Also, you can check the Survive and Thrive website o Progresando Juntos en español. Let's begin our meeting with an introduction from Commissioner Marta Lochamin. Following that, our program manager, Emily Darrell, will review the rest of today's agenda. Commissioner Lochamin.
Thank you. Buenos dias. Appreciate that time just to stop in the conversation and do just a quick welcome and introduction. Some of the folks participating today may be very familiar with this program, Progresando Juntos, that Survive and Thrive, that is really from the COVID relief funding and the American Rescue Plan Act funding, that a lot of y'all participated in that community engagement process in the past here locally in Boulder County with a lot of partner organizations in that process to determine what were the local impacts during that time. And so I just want to appreciate everybody who was part of that work to get us to the point where we could hear from folks about the request of economic relief specific to assistance for childcare focus, for nonprofit, for really including the family, friend, and neighbor network here locally in Boulder County as part of the most impacted groups at that time that fell under the umbrella of ARPA's wording of economic challenges. And so I'm really grateful to the team at Boulder County and the partners throughout the local community who have helped us determine and get this program up and ready. There's $7.8 million of funding for this particular program of Thrive and Survive. I do want to address, just because this is February of 2025, there are a lot of questions right now about federal funding, what impacts that might have. And we are watching very closely, and at this point are feeling really positive about the ability to still give out this funding. But I want to address that because I've gotten a lot of questions even over the weekend. This is one-time funding, and it's focused to help local childcare providers and nonprofits from those same COVID-19 impacts. I'm guessing that the group is going to talk through a little bit more about the specifics and the procedures and application. Want to really ask folks today, as you learn more about this program, to consider who you may know in your different organizational groups, your afternoon, evening activities, who you're connected to that needs to know about this one funding opportunity. And we are always thankful that community members share more about Boulder County as an organization, because it might not be this particular grant that somebody decides to use, but they could get connected to a different resource, a different program, or a different opportunity within Boulder County as an organization. So my invitation is to be present, to ask the questions, to participate today, and then share that information, whether it's on your social media or at a walk. Today is going to be good weather, afternoon, in a faith group community, or at your schools or your kiddo's school or your neighbor's school, etc. BoulderCounty.gov is the website, so you'll be able to find more information about this program and other resources. So I'm really pleased that we are finally at a point where we can respond with this tax funding here locally with the Survive and Thrive grants. And I just want to appreciate Boulder County staff and again, all the partners who've got us to this point. So thank you. And I'll turn it back over to you, I believe, Sophia.
Yeah, next we're gonna start with Emily Durrell, which is our manager, the manager of the program Survive and Thrive. Emily?
Yeah, thanks so much, Sophia, and thank you, Commissioner Lochamin. My name is Emily Darrell, and I'm here to provide details and general information about Survive and Thrive. So just a quick overview of our agenda today. We already had our intros and our intro from Commissioner Lochamin. Next up, we will talk about our program overview, including who's eligible. We'll give a program timeline, and we'll also have a application walkthrough from our partner organization AidKit, followed by an opportunity for questions and answers. So there'll be just a reminder that at the end of the presentation, we will be reading aloud the questions you've put in the Q&A. So please feel free to put those questions in the Q&A as we go along, and we'll do our best to get to those at the end. We will be trying to share answers to any questions we don't get to during the Q&A session by posting on our webpage and sending an email to folks who have attended. All right, so next slide, we'll go over the program background. Thank you. Oh, back, there we go. Oh, forward one. Perfect, program background. So the Survive and Thrive program, or Progresando Juntos, is a one-time grant program that will provide funding to nonprofit organizations and childcare providers. So funding amounts can range between $5,000 and $150,000, depending on the type of provider, and I'll share more on that in a moment. Funding for this program comes from the American Rescue Plan Act, or ARPA, from both Boulder County and the city of Boulder, and it aims to reduce some of that economic strain experienced by nonprofits and childcare providers as a result of COVID-19. As I mentioned, we've also partnered with our organization, AidKit, to help design the application and make sure everything runs smoothly. AidKit has a history of helping government organizations and other similar organizations with the design and implementation of similar direct cash assistance or aid programs. And we're very excited to be partnering with them on this project. Next slide. We'll talk about eligibility requirements on the next slide. So again, this program serves nonprofits providing safety net services and childcare providers that are licensed, as well as family, friend, and neighbor providers, which are not licensed. To be eligible for funding, all applicants have to meet the following eligibility requirements. They must be located and provide services in Boulder County, since this is a Boulder County program. And they must have provided services in Boulder County in 2020 and/or 2021. They must be at least 18 years of age. And applicants must have experienced at least one negative economic impact as a result of COVID-19 with lasting effects today. So those negative economic impacts include decreased, oh, we're still seeing your screen, Jen. So the negative, I think we're working on a technical thing just really quickly, but I'll continue to share the negative economic impacts. They include decreased revenue or gross receipts, financial insecurity, increased costs, capacity to weather financial hardships, challenges covering payroll, rent or mortgage, and other operating costs. And there are also a few additional requirements by applicant group that we'll share right now. So this program will fund two types of childcare providers, licensed providers and unlicensed family, friend, and neighbors. And both groups must serve children in the age range of 0 to 5 in order to qualify. For family, friend, and neighbors, that means they must serve at least one child in that age range. For licensed providers, that means you must be licensed to serve children in that age range. So that could mean newborns to age 2, or ages 2 through 13, or a combination of ages, as long as you are licensed to serve children in that age range. Since we've received so many questions about this topic, we want to further clarify that we're able to accept applications from the following license types. So the license types are child care center, experienced family and child care home, family child care home, preschool program, or 3 under 2 family child care home. These are the child care license types primarily serving kids 0 to 5, which is prioritized by this program. And continuing with eligibility requirements for nonprofit organizations, you must be licensed as a 501c3 or 501c19. So while we know many nonprofits would also benefit from this assistance, this criteria is finalized. You must be 501c3 or 501c19, and you must have also had that license during the pandemic. Nonprofits must also provide at least one safety net service, and those safety net services are food security, rent assistance or housing support and security, including utilities support, healthcare, mental health or substance use treatment, employment supports, direct cash assistance or financial counseling, education and skill building, child care advocacy, or early childhood services. We also want to share that if you are a licensed child care provider that is also a nonprofit, you can apply twice, once as a child care provider and once as a nonprofit. and you will have to complete 2 applications using our online platform. Okay, ready for the next slide about our funding amounts. So this program will provide a total of $7.8 million in funding, and the funding amounts will vary based on the type of provider that's applying. So this funding is similar to grant funding, as we've mentioned, and it is one time only. Eligible family, friend, and neighbors may receive $5,000. Eligible licensed childcare providers may receive anywhere from $8,000 to $40,000, and eligible nonprofit organizations may qualify for anywhere from $50,000 to $150,000. The amount of funding that's provided to organizations will vary based on a number of different factors, and we encourage applicants to include as much information about their economic impacts that they experienced due to COVID to help us make this determination. Just a reminder, funding must be used to address negative economic impacts from the pandemic. And we know that the impacts from the pandemic are very broad and may be very different and based on factors that were unique to each organization and individual. So there's currently no reporting requirement once the funds are awarded, but we do expect licensed childcares and nonprofits to keep careful records of this spending in case we do request additional information. Next, we'll talk about the estimated program app and timeline. So the timeline is, we have posted the application today. It is currently live as of February 24th at 9 a.m. and the application period will close on March 28th at 11:59 p.m. All eligible applicants that apply within this window will be considered for funding. This is not a first come, first serve program. So just make sure you apply in that application window. After the application period, we will review apps throughout the month of April, and ultimately we will provide payments in May of 2025. You can expect to hear from us at the end of April. And everybody who submits an application will be contacted. Keep in mind, these dates are subject to slight change, but for now, this is the program timeline. Next slide, we'll talk about some application details. So this is just a brief overview of what to expect for the application. And we will have a more detailed application walkthrough as well. But the application takes about 40 to 60 minutes to complete. You can do this by your phone, a tablet, or a computer. You have to be able to take a selfie and a picture. And since the application for this opportunity is online, it's a little different from other grant applications. So we're taking additional fraud prevention measures, and that is why we are including the requirement to take a selfie and a picture of a government-issued photo ID. So applicants should be prepared to provide a photo ID, and we accept multiple types of government-issued photo ID. Keep in mind, this info will be shared only with our partner organization Aid Kit. It will not be provided to other organizations or entities. You should also be prepared to provide your child care license number if you have one, and your 501c3 or 501c19 registration number. We have a few other application requirements for family, friend, and neighbors. Family, friend, and neighbors should be prepared to provide proof of residence in Boulder County. That might be a lease agreement or a utility bill or another document from within the last 90 days. And then we also ask for proof of services provided. There are multiple types of verification we accept for this too. This could include a tax statement showing the care that you have provided, or a bank statement showing that you are paid for childcare services, or even a Zelle or PayPal statement where you receive payment for childcare services provided. We also know that not everyone is paid or able to provide this documentation, so we also include a provider verification letter and a family or friend verification letter that you can have completed and uploaded with your application. Those can be completed by either the household that you support with your family, friend, and neighbor services. So a family member or a friend or whoever it is could complete the form on your behalf, or a service provider that knows about your family, friend, and neighbor work. So we have provided those additional options for folks to complete. And since we want everyone to be confident in their application and collect the info they need, you have the ability to save and return at any time in the application window. It auto saves as you go through. So if you close out, you'll just go back to the main page, fill out some of the initial application information, and then it will pull up your applications and you can pick up where you left off. And next slide, we will have our program application walkthrough from our partner organization Aid Kit, and she'll be sharing her screen with us. Pranathi from Aid Kit will be joining us any moment.
Hello, nice to meet you all. I am going to be sharing my screen. I am from Aid Kit, and so I've been working with Boulder County on this application. Give me a second to share my screen. Okay, great. Can you all see the window and see two?
Looks great, Pranathi.
Beautiful, thank you. So on the left side, I'm going to be walking through the application in English, and on the right side, I'm going to be walking through the application in Spanish. One thing I really want to reiterate is that we will have an application support team responding to any questions or concerns any individual has. You're welcome to email us or call us or text us when you have these questions. We will respond to you, and so as you're filling it out, if you need clarification about a question or you're having trouble uploading a document, please let us know. Continuing on, this is the welcome page to the application. And as Emily mentioned, even though the application autosaves, you can also click save and always resume your application. To resume your application, you will just go back to this welcome page. You will click the next page, and then as you're typing your email in, any applications associated with that email will come up. So I'm going to go to the next page on both. Here, you can see an overview page with some application details. Majority of the application details can be found on the Boulder County Survive and Thrive webpage, but here you'll have some initial eligibility requirements and so forth. Oop. So I'm just going to scroll down. We're going to ask for an initial consent. I'm going to click yes, and then I'll go to the next page. Now, if I were to resume an application, I would enter my birth date and email, and then any applications linked will come up. Because I'm creating a new one, that won't happen. But if you were to resume your application, this is where you would see those applications. So I'm now going to enter an email and send a confirmation code. For this application, we do require both email and a phone number. Hold on a second. And then I'm going to enter the code. Oop. And I entered it wrong. That was unintentional. And now I'm going to the consent. I'm just going to quickly do the same on the other application so we can proceed with both. Great. Now that I've applied for both, I'm going to start by walking through some program consent language. If I do not consent, I won't be able to continue on with the application. And so these are information use acknowledgement. I know there's a lot of text. I am not going to spend too much time looking through it, but I encourage you as you're filling out the application to read through the language. Once I click accept, the first question is asking me what my name is. For the sake of this, I'm just going to make up a fake name. And then I will have to sign. Great. So the next question that's asked is what type of application this will be. So will I be applying as a childcare provider or a nonprofit? Now, as Emily mentioned before, if you're eligible to be both a licensed childcare provider and a nonprofit, you are welcome to apply as both, but we encourage you to submit 2 applications. And you'll notice we'll go through this because if you say both, we'll ask to confirm that the nonprofit eligibility is met. That's because we don't want someone to think they're eligible and then actually not have the necessary requirements. And so are filling out details that might feel like a lot of extra effort. So if I am found to be eligible for both, we will get instructions that encourage us to submit 2 applications, one as a licensed childcare provider and then one as a nonprofit. If you use the same email, you'd be able to submit 2 applications and you'd be able to see which one is the childcare application and which one is the nonprofit application. If I'm going to continue on, I'm going to go, I can pick for this one to be a childcare provider. And if I'm one or the other, I would just from the beginning click which one I am. So in this situation, I'm going to work and say I'm a childcare provider. And I'm doing this application as the childcare provider. If I do have a name, organizational name, I would share it. So if I don't, I can skip this question. And then I'm going to click next. So now this is just information about me. This is asking if I want to add any sort of backup contact information, just in case we're not able to get a hold of you through the primary email and phone number shared. I'm going to say no, just so we can move forward, but I would encourage you to add information. And then its initial demographic information. Because I'm applying right now as a childcare provider, I'm now getting some questions asked about the childcare application. The first is understanding if I have a childcare license. If I do not, we can still continue on at the application as a family, friend, and neighbor. I'm going to pretend right now that I am a licensed childcare provider. And so the next question is asking if I have one of the 5 licenses that Emily earlier explained. To be thought of as eligible as a licensed childcare provider, I would need to have one of these 5 license types. If I do not, I could still continue on, but as a family, friend, and neighbor. So to be a licensed childcare provider, I'm going to say yes. Now the next question is asking if I work under or contract with the school district. I'm going to say no. And then I'm going to enter my childcare license number. I'm going to enter a very fake one just to make it obvious. And then I'm asked to retype it. Now the next question is asking if I or the organization I represent serve children in the ages 0 to 5 range. This is inclusive of 0 to 5. If you're an organization that serves other children, that's okay, as long as you're also serving children in this age range. If I were to say no, for example, I would get an error telling me that I'm not meeting the application requirements. So now that I'm continuing on as a licensed childcare provider, I'm being asked what my number of children I am licensed to serve is. I'm going to click different ones, continue on. Now we need to know what the location is for where services are conducted. I'm gonna create a fake one. It's a fake address, so it's not found, but I'm gonna say it's correct for now. Okay, and then that's good. For nonprofits, we would also ask a similar question. And for family, friend, and neighbors, we would additionally ask where their services are provided and what is their home address. And then we would also ask for residency documentation that shows proof of living there. That can be a lease, a utility bill, official letter that was sent to this address with their name on it. There's a wide variety of documentation that family, friends, and neighbors could provide. Now we have an ARPA question. Before doing so, we are going to ask for the job title. For now, I'm just going to make up a job title and pretend I'm a CEO. And then we're going to ask about ARPA funding. This will not, if you say that you or the organization you represent received ARPA funding, that is okay. It will not exclude you or the organization from funding for the Survive and Thrive program, but we just want to know more information and details about it. So if I said yes, I'd want to know how much was received. And then I also want to know how much did the ARPA funding resolve any sort of negative economic impacts experienced. And lastly, I would then want to understand how the Survive and Thrive program would help me in addition to the ARPA funds that I already received. So for now, I'm going to write a little test response. I would encourage you to share more. As Emily mentioned earlier on, the application will ask you about the negative economic impacts experienced due to the COVID pandemic. There's 5 different options. There's decreased revenue, financial insecurity, increased costs, capacity to weather financial hardship, and challenges covering payroll, rent or mortgage, and or other operating costs. We encourage you to click all of the ones that you had negatively faced due to COVID, and we will then ask you to share more information about each one. If I were to say none of them, I will get a message telling me that this is not needed for the application. This does not meet the application requirements. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to click all of them so you can see what each one looks like. So in the decreased revenue or gross receipts section, we will ask you first to write a little bit about how your organization or you experienced this negative economic impact. We'll give you some pointers on how you may want to respond, and we encourage you to answer these in your response. In addition, if you would like, you're welcome to upload a supporting document. It is not necessary. It's more just if you have any supporting proof that would be useful to share with us. Afterwards, we want to understand if you are currently experiencing this negative impact. We know that the negative impacts you faced during COVID might differ from the negative impacts you're facing now. And so we want to make sure that we're understanding both. I'm going to say no for this one. Actually, I'm going to say yes so that you could see the prompts. So if I say yes, you can see that you'll be prompted to write another response. And in addition, you can also upload an additional supporting document. Now we're going to the financial insecurity piece. For the financial insecurity piece, we also encourage you, if this was something you experienced during COVID, to then share more information about how you experienced it. And you can also include another supporting document. If I say yes, you'll also see that another prompt to explain how we are currently experiencing this negative impact. So for each of the 5 negative economic impacts, you will be required to share more information if you have previously experienced it during COVID or are currently experiencing it. And each time you can add you can add and upload documents if you would like. I'm going to continue on to the next economic impact, which is increased cost. And then I'm going to say yes. And then the next section is capacity to weather financial hardship. I'm going to just say no for this case. And then I'm not asked to add any additional information about how I was currently responding to that negative impact. And then the last one is challenges covering payroll, rent, or mortgage and or other operating costs. And I'm just going to say no to this. Once done, I can continue on. Again, at the very beginning, we ask you which ones you experienced. So I had selected, in this case, all 5 of them. If,
Seleccione los 5.
oh, okay, I think the Spanish interpreter and I might be in the same room right now. I can also click 1 or 2. I would say click the ones that are most relevant to you and the organization. So I just clicked all 5 so you could see it, but now I'm just gonna scroll down. After I fill out this page, I can go to the next page.
Llene esta hoja.
The next section is about identity verification. So this is where we want to know the applicant. So currently me, even if I am representing an organization, this is where they want to collect details about me. This is because since the application is online, we want to take additional fraud prevention measures to make sure that there's nothing suspicious going on. This information will not be shared with other government agencies. It will be shared by AidKit and with Boulder County. The first thing that we want to know is what type of government issued ID are we using? So I'm just gonna say, let's say a passport. And then I'm gonna just share the expiration date of it. And now, as Emily mentioned earlier on, we're going to take a live photo.
Vamos a tomar una imagen en vivo.
Oh, okay. We're going to take a live photo of the individual, me, and of the ID. And this is again for fraud prevention strategies. And so if I'm not ready to take the photo now, I can resume the application, save and resume the application later. As Emily mentioned earlier on, the application say auto saves, but if you look down, you can also always see a save and log out button. So if I were to click save and log out, I can then go back to the application main page and then continue on. When I enter my email address, it will pop up any associated applications, and I can resume that application again. For now, I'm just gonna say I'm ready to take a photo. And so I'm just going to do it on a new tab so you can all see what it's like. I will not be using any official government documentation for the sake of keeping some sensitive information to myself instead of on a recording, but I will use some fake one. So it's gonna work. As you can see, there's steps to do so. And so I'm gonna click Begin Identity Verification. It's gonna show it. I'm gonna click this. And then it took that picture of the ID. I'm gonna click Next. This is my library card for individuals who are interested. And then it's gonna take a picture of my face. It's gonna check for the quality of it all. And once it's done, I can just close that window. As you can see, it says that great, my identity has been submitted. And then I can click Next. Now I'm gonna do this one more time, just for continuing on with both applications. The other thing to note is you can have it emailed to yourself and message to yourself as well. So let's say in this situation, I was able to open the link on my laptop or computer, but if you don't have a web camera, you can also email yourself the link or have it texted to yourself and then use your phone to take the necessary pictures. In this case, I'm gonna continue on. And continue. There you go. And I took one of them blurry, so it's telling me to retry this one. There we go. And now I can close. So now for both, I can continue on. Now we have to collect some payment information. For any individual applying as a licensed childcare provider or a nonprofit, we will require you to share bank information. If you are applying as a family, friend, and neighbor, you have the option to use a bank account or a debit card that could be mailed to you and then loaded with the funds if application is deemed eligible. And so for this, I'm going to say a bank account, and I'm going to try and remember what a routing number is for an appropriate. I think that is Chase. And then I'm supposed to enter my bank account information. Again, this is all encrypted and sensitive. And so even, for example, as you can see me type, it's hidden. I can only make it visible if I want it to be. And so this is the bank account number associated with where you would want funds to go if you're deemed eligible. And once there, it would be encrypted. The next thing to know is that we need to know the name associated with the bank account information shared. This is only for people who are applying and sharing their bank account. In this case, I'm going to say it's someone like this. And I'm going to say it's a checking account. And then I can continue on. If, for example, the account is actually under someone else's name in the organization, or it's under the organization's name, please enter that. Let's say I have a different name. I will get a message that pops up asking me to confirm. This is because we've seen in the past, sometimes when people enter the name associated with their bank account, they enter the bank's name. Please do not enter the bank's name. Enter either your name or the organization's name, whichever name is associated with that bank account. If, for example, it's someone else in the organization, we just want to confirm that this is correct. And so if I think it's correct, I can say yes, and then I can click next. We're almost at the end. The last bit is just a recipient experience survey. We at AidKit are really curious to know how you all are experiencing filling out this information online. And so at the end, we would ask you, it is all optional, so you don't need to respond if you would not like to, but we would appreciate all of your thoughts. And so I'm just going to scroll past this, click next. And now it's just the final consent language that you can see. I would encourage you all to read through it, but towards the end, we will ask you for your signature. So I'm just going to do a fake signature and then continue on. Now, if you remember, at the very beginning of the application, I said I was both a licensed childcare provider and a nonprofit, which is why this reminder is coming up for me, encouraging me so that I remember to apply twice in this particular instance. If you are simply applying as a licensed childcare provider, this would not come up. Or if you're applying, for example, as a family, friend, and neighbor, this would also not come up. And then once conducted, I can then submit the application. So I'm going to click submit for both. And then you can see that you've submitted your application. You will then get, within 10 minutes, I would say, an email and a phone message confirming that you've submitted the application. If you have any questions, of course, you can see that the email to the support line and the phone number to the support line is there. Again, we encourage you as you're completing the application to reach out if you have any questions or concerns. That was it for the application walkthrough. Emily, I'm going to pass it over to you and also stop sharing my screen.
Thanks so much, Pranati. Thanks for that walkthrough. Now we are ready to take a question and answer session. Now that we've done our application walkthrough, we can open up for questions that were provided in the chat. And so I think, Sophia, if you just let me know, we can go right ahead. I'm not hearing Sophia speaking for some reason. We might have a microphone issue. Let's give it 1 second.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, yes.
Perfect. Thank you very much. So the first question is, does the nonprofit have to be or have to provide services for mental health and substance use, or can it be a nonprofit that work with parents on these topics for themselves and to show up for their children or the one that works directly with therapists and counselors?
That makes sense. The safety net service, as I understand it, would also include a nonprofit that works with parents on topics for themselves and how to show up for their children. I think in this instance, it might be beneficial to select mental health as well as the education and skill building safety net service, since this seems also to cross into that territory as well.
Okay, perfect. Thank you very much. Next question is, when you listed license types, I didn't hear you say large family childcare homes. We're a home, I'm sorry, we're a home childcare license for 12 kids.
Yes, that's a great question. Family childcare homes serving children 0 to 5 should qualify for this program. So that's something that we will double check on, but family childcare homes should qualify for this. Please feel free to send me an email. My email is in the chat, edarrell@bouldercounty.gov.
Perfect. Thank you, Emily. Next question. We're a preschool, so would the safety net services provide early childhood services just mean that we had been open during that time?
I think the way I'm interpreting this question is, if you are a preschool and you are applying just as a preschool that's licensed, not necessarily as a nonprofit as well, you do not have to worry about the safety net services. However, if you are also choosing to apply as a nonprofit, so you would be applying twice, then you would want to select that safety net service. And that doesn't mean that you had been open at a specific time. It just means that those are the services that you provided. The safety net services themselves are a specific subset of services that were crucial in supporting our community throughout and following COVID-19, and were specifically selected as priorities in a collaborative process with our leadership and the community.
Then the next question is related to that. Can you give examples of some safety net services?
Okay, that's tricky. I will try. So we had an example for mental health services given already. Let me see. So safety net services include food security, which could be something like a food bank that's operating, or even an organization that helps with SNAP applications or applications for supplemental nutrition assistance program. Food stamps is what it's frequently known as. Rental assistance and housing support and security, which also includes utility support, could be a shelter providing services, or if you are able to provide some form of voucher for housing assistance. Maybe I know some organizations provide things even like temporary lodging, like hotel vouchers. Utilities could include help with LEAP applications. The list is pretty long. Then we have healthcare. So this could include things like health testing. A lot of nonprofits might assist with testing for certain infections, or providing things like vaccination for things like COVID or flu or other sort of things. Healthcare is a pretty wide range of services. Mental health and substance use treatment, we already discussed. Employment supports could include things like assistance preparing for an interview, assistance. Some places operate clothes closets or help with cover letters. Employment support, or I already talked about that, sorry. Direct cash assistance or financial counseling, if you are able to provide assistance to individuals with their cost of living, or help them develop a budget. And then education or skill building could be programs that help with child development or academic achievement in general. That could include childcare and academic support, training for various age groups. And then we have childcare advocacy and early childhood services, which again, we have childcares that are eligible as a result of there being nonprofit childcares, but we know there are other organizations that help with childcare advocacy and advocating on behalf of childcares and childcare providers.
Perfect.
Hope that's helpful.
Thank you. For nonprofits, how do you define educational? Are arts and cultural events such as performances considered educational?
Great question. Generally, in terms of education for the purposes of social safety net services, these are those programs that are viewed as advancing child development and academic achievement. Things like, again, childcare, academic support, training for various age groups. It's possible that arts education specifically would qualify. It's not something that is specifically on the list, but again, if nonprofits provide safety net services or provide services that even indirectly influence these safety net services, we would still encourage you to apply, and we can visit those apps on a case-by-case basis.
Next question, what do you mean by uploading document? Is that the same as sending a photograph or of a piece of paper?
That's a great question. I might turn that one to Pranathi to specify if there are any file types that are preferred.
Yes.
Pranathi, let us know if we need to reread the question.
Nope, I understood. And I wish I just showed it on the screen. So thank you for asking. In terms of uploading documents, it could be as simple as you have a photo of a document or something on your computer, and then you can upload it. Typically, PDFs or JPEGs or PNGs are preferred, but most document types should work, and all of the typical document types should be allowed.
Perfect. Thank you very much. Next question is, can we print and or download the complete application before we hit submit?
I think that's also a Pranathi question.
Yep, coming back. At this moment, no, you cannot download the application after you hit submit or print it out. That being said, as you are filling out the application, you are welcome to print each page or take screenshots of whatever you are typing.
Perfect. Thank you very much. Will the number of categories we fill out affect the amount we will get?
Great question. So funding amounts are determined based on a variety of different factors, and the eligibility criteria is not something that we are providing upfront in order to ensure a fair and equitable review process. So the evaluation of applications will be based on a variety of different factors, and that includes the impact your organization faced during COVID-19. So we encourage applicants to provide a thorough, honest, and complete description of how you were impacted by COVID-19 and the pandemic, and how the funding would help to address those challenges to help our team.
Okay, next question. Does the application specify eligible costs for this funding? And by when does the funding need to be spent down?
Yeah, great question. As we mentioned, there is currently no reporting requirement for funds that are distributed through this program. However, funds do have to be spent on pandemic recovery expenses. So the expectation is that organizations will use this funding to recover from the COVID-19 pandemic in whatever way is most urgent and necessary to you all. There is currently no deadline by which the funds need to be spent.
Okay, perfect. Next question. If you are a nonprofit that provides legal services and emergency rental assistance to families with young children at risk of eviction, would you be eligible?
Let me see. Emergency rental assistance sounds like it would qualify under housing support to me. I would encourage an organization of this description to apply for this program based on that safety net service. And the other safety net services, you can still describe how those legal services might impact other safety net services, and our team can consider that as well.
Okay. What percentage of individuals you serve must be 0 to 5? If you also serve older children, can funds only be applied to the 0 to 5 age group?
Yeah, great question. The intent of this program is to support organizations that are really serving that 0 to 5 age group, because we know the 0 to 5 age group has often the greatest economic cost associated with it and experienced the greatest challenges from COVID. However, there is currently no requirement for the percentage of children that you serve in that age group. We just need to know if you are licensed to serve children in that age group and you have one of the required license types. So I think there was a second part to that question. So the funding is not restricted to being spent only on that age group. this is a broad pandemic recovery, but the hope is that that's what you would use the funding for.
Perfect. And the last question we have, if an applicant requests a funding amount, is that applicant awarded or denied based on that funding amount only, or is partial funding amount considered?
This application is a little different from other grant applications, and applicants will not select the funding amount that they would like. That's something that is determined only on the back end and based off of the application type that you complete. So nonprofits can receive a range of 50 to 150,000. Childcare providers a range of 8,000 to 40,000, and FFN 5,000. The actual funding amount will be determined by us and our staff, and your eligibility and your application.
Perfect. And I think that's all the questions that we have for today.
Okay, I'm hoping to share just a little additional information. In our last session, we received multiple questions about organizations that have multiple licenses. For example, a childcare that has a licensed facility in Lafayette and a licensed facility in Longmont, and whether they should complete 2 different applications. The answer is yes, we would like you to complete 2 separate applications. And please, if you are completing 2 of the same application type, so 2 childcare applications, please make sure you have a different representative complete those applications. So one person completes the first for your first license, and another completes the second for your second license. This would also apply to 501c3s. If an organization has multiple 501c3s, we would ask that if you are applying 2 times under the nonprofit application, please also have 2 different representatives from your organization complete the application that way. And last but not least, just want to reiterate, the funding should be used for expenses related to the COVID-19 pandemic. That has been one of our most frequently asked questions so far. Oh, I see another question has popped up in the chat.
So on the website, FAQs, it says, can our organization apply? We were not officially 501c3 certified in 2020 or 2021. And the answer is, to be eligible, your organization must have been operating as formal 501c3 or 501c19 during 2020 or 2021. If your nonprofit did not receive its 501c3 status until after 2021, unfortunately, you are not eligible for this program. If we are a for-profit childcare, can we still apply? I thought that it was yes, but it seems like no.
That's a great question. I would love to clarify. So for this program, we have 2 separate application pathways, one for childcare, one for nonprofit. You do not have to be eligible for both. So if you are a for-profit childcare, you can still apply via the childcare application, and you will not have to fill out that information about your 501c3 information, because it won't necessarily apply. If you are a nonprofit child care provider, you have the option of applying twice. You do not have to apply twice, but you have the option of applying for the child care funding and the nonprofit funding. So I hope that helps clarify that yes, for-profit child care providers are still eligible, and we still encourage you to apply as a childcare.
Next question, for the different applications per location, are there requirements around who the representative needs to be?
We would strongly encourage that your applicant or the representative from your organization be somebody that knows your organization's finances and their experience during COVID-19 and how the money from this program would impact your current operations. So ideally, that's somebody like a director or a program manager or a staff who knows that information.
Okay, next question. Is it known how much of the 7 million will go to childcare providers versus nonprofits?
Right now, we have childcare's receiving $3.5 million and nonprofits will receive 3.6.
Perfect. Thank you very much, Emily. So for now, I don't see any more questions.
Yeah, we'll leave the chat open for just another moment in case there are any other questions. Otherwise, thank you so much, everyone, for joining us today. We're really glad we had this chance to give you an overview of the application, to answer questions, and just share more about this opportunity. We'll do our best to share answers to any other questions that might come up. Please feel free to send me an email with those. And we will also share recordings of this session and some frequently asked questions that we've received. So if you have any other questions, please check out our website. Otherwise, thank you for joining us and have a great rest of your week.